Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. Welcome if you're new. I'm Stacy and today we are going to do a autumn scene on velour paper. This is the more camel brown velour paper. This is that highly textured, very soft fuzzy feeling paper. I have out my Mungyo hand-rolled pastels right here. This is the entire tray. Currently what it looks like. I use the little snippets and I'm trying not to destroy the paper so I can know what colors are what. And then I have out my half sticks. I broke all my sticks in half of my Prismacolor NuPastels. These are a hard pastel and these are a very soft pastel. It's good to start with your softer ones on this paper. I think you can go either way. I kind of switch back and forth, but I've found that putting down your soft gently and then kind of brushing it in and then going over again with both to delineate and refine is a good way to work things out. I have a tissue up here to set the colors I'm using on, and I've washi taped the paper down just so that I have a little edge. I like that finished look and it gives me a little bit to hold on to. Generally you don't have to worry about the chalk coming off of this paper because it gets in the fine hairs, the little fine textures of the paper, and it just kind of holds it there. And I haven't had a problem with it falling off or making a mess on the table or anything like that. So this is our color cube card that we're going to use today for reference, and I'm going to try to stick to this palette, but once again it's just a guide and a starting point. This is from a previous painting that I did. It's just a guide and a starting point. These are the colors on the back if you want to paint along. You can stop and snippet that if you need to, or just freeze and get your colors. And yeah, we're just going to jump right in. The color cube cards are a great way to start out if you don't know what you want to paint, or if you do know what you want to paint and you just want a nice reference photo and a nice starting palette point. Good practice. So I'm going to leave this here. This is up here. I'm going to zoom in so that you can really see what I'm doing. And I purposely put this in a landscape orientation because the photograph is in a landscape orientation. You don't have to do that. You can do whatever you want. This is your life. You don't have the velour paper. You can use any pastel paper or even a watercolor paper that's not too heavily textured would work. I am going to go ahead and pick some colors that kind of match. I'll put this in here so you can see what I'm doing. This is where I pick colors to kind of start out with. I'm going to roll with this orange, which is just deep orange. And then let's do this kind of golden yellow, kind of falls over here. And then this yellow, this more earthy one, kind of is in between. And if we flip this over, we see that it is more of a marigold light than a marigold dark. So variations of marigold are allowed per this palette. And then we can go to the brown, which I have right here. It's very nice. It's a little more red, but I like that. This is dark sienna. I don't know what this one is because I tore the paper off and lost it, so we're just rolling with it. This one here is a cream, which could be used for highlights. It kind of rolls with the, instead of using white. And then a dark brown, this super dark brown here. I don't really have a dark brown in my Handmades, but I do have several browns in my, this one is a good choice. And then a harder one for this color is that one. And then maybe a hard one for our oranges. I'm gonna go with this one and maybe this red orange, just so that I have out a hard stick as well as a soft stick, so that I can bounce back and forth without having to hem and haw and pick from here. We got a little hard stick there, and then the cream in hard as well, in case we need it. And we can also grab from here if we decide we want to. So that's our starting point. And this is our base color. Actually, you can see between the trees there's a little bit of sky poking through back there that is very, very light, and right here. We'll probably use the light cream to convey that. Let's grab one of the mid oranges and drop in our horizon line, which is a little bit lower than. I'm just going to drag the edge of it across the page like that, on that pointed edge, and it gives us a nice crisp line. And we can drag it a couple times and see how the leaves are back there. It's just dots. It's dots of color and abstract shapes in the front, in the foreground, and we're going to put a little bit of brown in on our foreground as well. So I'm going to go ahead and let's do a little bit of soft brown, not covering all of that paper because that paper is going to do some of the work for us. And drop it in. And we'll want it to show up between our leaves. So, kind of dragging it, barely touching the page, letting it catch on the hairs of the paper, those little fine textures, and they really grab a hold of it, see? And it doesn't move around at all. If it does, it's very, very pale. Very, very pale. I'll go ahead and drop in a few darker patches. Like that. Working in a couple directions so that it doesn't look like I have lines, it looks more like a texture. Like that. That's a start down there. We can come in and drag some in up here so that it will peek through the other layers. Right? Okay. Put that down. There's a touch of green and a touch of a yellow in here, like a pale, pale yellow as well. And I don't want to miss. Let's see. I'm going to put in about this far in, a little more than half. Lightly, gently put in a little tree line coming up this way in that background. And we're going to go over the top of this, but like we did down here, we just want to suggest the color gently, lightly. Suggest that color through there. And I want it to come almost all the way down. I'm going to take the paper off, but I'm just going to work with the edge and kind of skim it around. I do have a damaged part on the paper from where it got scratched a bit. And these softer ones will blend a bit because they put down a lot of pigment right away. I'm going to go ahead and push it around a little bit, as much as I can. It will blend a bit, but not a lot. That's the extent right there. That's as far as it's going to go. But that gives a nice glow, right? And I think I'd like more glow over here as well. Kind of through there. Okay. I'm gonna put in dots back here on that ground, and I'm gonna leave them as dots like that. Here and there, and just take your finger and pat them in, and that'll push them into the fibers of that paper without them spreading about too much. See? And go across back here. Get that nice texture in. Like that. I know it looks super vibrant right now. It's very out of balance with everything else, but it will get better, I promise. I'm going to go ahead and put some down here and through there. Kind of pat that in all the way across. Helps mute it just a skosh. Okay, and then where else do we want our orange? We want it down here for sure. A little touch right here. A little touch right here. Some right here. Like that. Bit right here. And right there. Okay. I'm going to take my cream. Soften and get that. Well, there's a little flat edge right here. I'm going to dust off a little bit. And I'm going to take that little flat edge from using it before. I have a little flat spot on the side that you can see. And I'm going to gently go up and let the textures of the paper do the work for me. Let me zoom way in so you can see what exactly is happening here. So look over here. We'll set it down and just push it along the page. And it creates that light dusting of texture. And we can go all the way up because it's nice and light through a lot of this in that tree line. We don't want to go too far up in the middle because remember there's sky back there. And then here, like that. See, that's going to give us a glow. Let's push you back out and zoom back out. Let's see if I can get this set back the way I had it. Right about there? Is that right about? I think that was right about there, you guys. I don't know. Hopefully. And I'm going to do just a bit right here. And then behind these two trees, there's even more glow, and then this foreground texturing kind of comes down like that. It's very pretty, and it's very, yeah, the textures are amazing. Look at that. And I'm not going to fuss with it too much. Just let it be. A little texturing back here. That. Sorry. That's nice. Gives that glow, right? Giving me that glow that I'm looking for. I don't want to get too heavy with it right now. We can go ahead and I'm going to use the flat tip of this one. I feel like we should get in our tree trunks first. Alright, I'm going to take the hard dark. We're going to do it. We're going to own it. Right about here. A couple trees. And you do not have to adhere strictly to your reference photo. You can break away. Put in less trees. Put in more trees. Put in thinner trees. Put in a couple big fat thick trees and call it good. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to try to stick to what the reference photo looks like. But you feel free to break away. There. We got a little one back there. Off in the distance. There. Okay. I'm going to take the flat of this. And get in a wiggly line like that. Like that. Some cool textures. These are very bumpily looking trees. They're not straight up and down. They've got lots of character. Kind of like that. Got a little carried away with this one, but that's alright. There's lots of foliage right through here. That's fairly dark. Kind of like that. In front of there, and then it's kind of behind these trees back here. Like that. Alright, let's get on our other trees. Let's come in here. Putting in my branches first. You can do whatever you want. And remember, this is a practice. These are bumpily trees, so they don't have to have straight branches. Okay. That there. And this guy here. And then guy kind of comes behind this guy. Kind of like that. And out like this. And then down like that. There's the placement for that one. This is very loose and sketchy. Alright, these trunks are going to get narrow back here. Right? Okay. Kind of like that, a little misty, a little less focused, so that they feel a little more distant. Okay. Like that. Oh yeah, I'm digging this. Okay. I'll leave that like that. I got a suggestion of trees in the distance here. So we're going to go ahead and plop those in. I'm going to use the point of this. Drawing some lines real light between here. Between there, we've got twigs and branches rolling around back there, tops of tree peeking through. This gets very muddy through here because there's just lots going on in the reference photo there. We've got twigs and branches going in a few directions over there. And I'm going to change to a lighter color. I'm going to put in this tree right here in the distance. Goes up like that. And then there's a bunch of foliage over the top. And in order to make it look like a distant tree, we're going to put some dark brown over the top of that yellow and get that muted. Let it mix on the page. Let the texture of the paper do some of the work for you for texturing the tree. Don't fill it all in. Like that. Nice. Fun. Like that. There's that tree back there, and then we're going to put in our other light ones where we just see the bottom of the trunks. There. 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 This one's a little closer to that one. And then I'm going to put one over here. Okay. And we're going to grab our brown again. We're going to put in our more foreground tree. One here that kind of disappears. And then there's one here. Goes up. And it branches off. kind of like that. And this is warbly as well. Remember, our trees are very warbly. They've got wiggly, bumpily edges, so don't be afraid to create that. Okay. And then this tree, let's put in this guy first. Right here. And this guy. Okay, there's the placement of our trees. Now we can use our softer, I'd like a darker brown than this, maybe this dark red brown. Oh yeah, there we go. And we can go ahead and get our silhouettes of these trees really darken now that we have our placement down. Like that. Put some of this brown on top. Give it a soft brush to push it into the page a little bit. Oh, dramatic, I like it. I went too bold on that one, so I'm going lighter like we did on the sky here. Just gently skim that page. And maybe it'll create little tree textures for us, so we don't have to do so much work. That. Perfect, okay. And just because you're following a reference photo doesn't mean it needs to be realistic. It can be impressionistic feeling. It can be loose and painterly. Just keep that in mind if you're feeling pressured to create something that feels realistic, and that's not how you feel like you want to work. You can get in there and play in a more painterly way. Like that. Isn't that great? Kind of skim over the top of this here and there. Good. Same thing over here. All the trees are getting the same treatment. A light skimming of color, a little more pressure here and there, where the knots are and the bumps are. Like this side of the tree is more in the dark, so it'll get a little more treatment than this side. And then this foreground one. Same thing, because we're going to come in with a dark color over the top of this. I have an even darker brown. Remember, this one's more of a red brown. And this tree is kind of leaning a little bit this way. Fill these ones up in the forefront a little more. Like that. That's kind of cool, right? Alright, now our very distant trees need to be more of a brown color than a golden color. So I'm going to go over that golden with this pale brown. Sorry about the road noise. Over each golden line those distant trees. And don't worry about being exact with shading and coloring, just drop them in. Like that. Yeah, I dig that. Okay. Okay. I want to take the point of this and create some more distant limbs and things happening. So dig in and get some textures. We can cover them up later, but a few textures now, right? And then they'll peep through, right? Like that. Now right through. I want to use a brighter yellow. Yeah, this guy. Because the paper's so muted. Maybe we'll put in our light spots first between these two trees. My fitness app wants me to check out my status. Check it out, see where you're at, what's going on. Put some little sky holes in now, little light areas over here, kind of above the tops of this tree line back here. Between these trees, and just a little whispering through here of sky. Maybe a little whispering down here. Right? And then little touches down here, which will probably mostly go away, but you never know. Okay? Just throw a little down there for visual balance so that my eye isn't pulling just to that one area. Now, this bright yellow on either side of this tree right here for the distant foliage. Just gonna tap the paper, tap, tap, tap. And I'm gonna carry it through lightly in other areas, but right through here, almost down to our horizon, we have this bright yellow peeping through. Kind of up the edge of this, between here, gently. Vibrant, just a little bit of vibrancy. And I'm going to put touches of it over here. Peeping through little bits, little tap, tap, taps, taps. We have more sky holes over here as well. That. Good. Okay, moving right along. Don't stop now. I'm gonna grab our more orangey yellow. Actually, let's take our bright yellow and balance this out. We're gonna put a touch here over these white bits to kind of do that. Little taps down here as well. Yeah, our marks down here are going to be larger than our marks in the middle because this is closer to us, and that's a very distant falling of leaves back here. So back here we can get a little bold with our mark, making tiny little spots and dots and dings because it's going to cover up later. But down here we want to be sparing because we have details that we want to put in later. Okay, like that. How's that for our dark bright yellow? Okay, let's go in with this lighter, more creamy color. Tap it in. I feel like I need to go over the top of that bright yellow with a light color and kind of not mute it, but give it more of a glow than a brightness. You know what I mean? Tap it in, a little bit of light on top, tap that in. Give it a little tap and pull, and it'll help blend it a little bit. Is that better? A little. Alright. I'm getting nitpicky at this point. I want a little bit of green in here as well. There's bits of green. That's too hard. I'm gonna go with this vibrant. There's bits of green through here. And there. Like that. Bits of green back here. Pardon me, touches of green on our yellow to make a yellow-green area. maybe instead of dotting hard, I'm going to gently mist over the yellow like that. Just to soften it out a bit. See? Okay. Alright, what else do I want to do? Let's go in with our bright orange. Actually, I'm going to go in with the end, which looks like this. These handmade ones have textures on the ends of them that are natural from the way they're made. So I'm going to use the end of this abnormal end of the soft. If you don't have one, you can break your chalk a little, like break a chunk off or break a bit off. And just kind of do little swirly, tappy, draggy check marks kind of all over, like that. You can do the edge, you get some more. Remember, we don't want to fill everything in because it'll lose some of that beautiful texture and interest that we have. Because we're going to go over the top of this even with some more brighter colors. I'm going to stay in front of this tree. Remember, this tree and this tree are in the forefront. This tree and this tree are in the forefront, so they're not going to have as much foliage over the top of them as these distant ones. And then I'm going to even come down in here like that. Maybe up here we can go over the top a little bit. This one we're not going to be afraid. We're just going to go ahead and go right over the top like that. And maybe these little ones down here are growing, and then their leaves are kind of poking out and through like that. Don't hold back from feeling your feelings and being a little creative. Like these little twigs down here are leaning out and in the front of the lower part of there. And then we've got some foliage coming up in front of this tree. Okay, now we're going to get in here with our orange and do the same thing. Oops, I missed this corner over here. There. And just take the tip and tap. Tap, tap, tap. And this paper will grab the chalk. I'm just tapping it straight down and twisting it so that it'll create different shapes. And you can stay bright like this. You can get in here with a little bit of the brown and tap that on, and then tap it in, and it'll mute out some of those colors. See? Create a little shadow and interest in your leaves. That. And then work right over the top. A little chunk right there. How cool is that? And then down here, because this is in the distant, I'm going to do a little rub, a little tap and rub up in an upward fashion, and in, both directions. Tap and in, and tap and in. Kind of like that. And create a little bit of behind the scenes dense foliage through here. Now, if that's too bright and vibrant, which it is for me, I'm going to take my brown and tap it over the top and give it a little tap to push it into the page. Like that. Gently, gently, gently. With the browns, and then we can get in there with a touch of cream. And then a touch of orange over that cream. Like that. A little bit down here. Are we liking that? Okay. Good. Okay, let's use all of our colors like we did up here, down here in our little distance leaf strewn ground area. Don't be afraid to work up over the top of those, the bottoms of those trees. Pushes them back in the distance a little bit. Remember, your middle ground will be kind of mid-sized marks, right? And then anything in the foreground is going to be a larger mark. Remember, we want these to look like fallen leaves, so, you know, go over that bright orange with a little bit of yellow. And pull the colors together to create one uniform piece or segment, like that. See, slightly impressionistic, feels like a leaf, right? And go over the top of this, like that. Grab a little bit of orange, kind of mist it over the top of that. And don't fuss with it, leave it be. And these are still the soft pastels, remember? We're not getting too carried away with the darks or the hard pastels just yet. I do want that. Should we do black? I think I'm going to. Once again, just misting over the top of the texture of the paper so as not to obliterate the colors underneath. Let them peek through. If it got too dark, go over it again with a light color. And you can go back and forth like this until your paper will not take any more chalk. As long as your paper is allowing you to lay down pigment, you can keep pushing back and forth and making the piece your very own. Push it in a little bit with my pinky. That. What's that? Just the lightest touch on this mid-ground tree. The barest hint of dark. Like that. Just the barest hint of darkness. Okay, and then even lighter back here. Just the teensiest tap here and there. Like that. But it definitely pulls those trees into the foreground, right? Like that, and then same thing over here. Like that. Oh yeah, see, that adds so much depth and dimension. Take our pale brown. We're going to do the same thing with these tree trunks. This guy that's right about here. Like that. We've got a distant one back here. Like that. Yeah, I take that, okay. You don't want it to be a uniform line right there for your foliage between the trees. So be careful of that. I'm not really digging that color. Let's get this harder. Actually. Oh yeah, that's pretty. How gentle's that bright orange. If you like the bright orange, don't do this part. You know, your piece is yours. Put your colors in where you want them to be. And gentle up some of that orange that's up here. Through there. I like that softer look. Yeah, that's pretty. Seems to help mute out the green and yellow quite nicely too. And give that glow that I was looking for, right? Yeah, I dig it. Okay. And then yep. Alright. This is crazy as I want to get with our background, although I did lose a bunch of sky hole areas, right? That. You can pop those in at the end if you feel you lost them. You can go ahead and go in and redefine. Not a lot, just enough to create that illusion of sky peeking through. Perfect. Okay. This red brown, drag that around down here. That's cool. Definitely looks like textured foreground. Seeing just that little bit of shadow right there pulls these bigger pieces right to the forefront. Okay. Take my orange, skim that in back here as well. Okay. That little bit of brown between the oranges, pat that down. Yeah, it gives it a little bit of shadow and depth. I dig that. Back there. Couple of pure dark areas like that. Nice. Okay. I'll leave those alone. I like them. I like that. What do you guys think? I'm kind of digging how it looks. Okay, let's look at our reference photo. Down, up, down, up, down. Yeah. I like that. And maybe just a little light on the edges, the interior edges of these. Like that. I think that's good. And then maybe we need some branches. Bits of just bits, not too much. Suggestions here and there. Good? Is that good? Are we done? Okay, we're gonna call this done. Here's our reference photo. Ready? There's our piece. I'm kind of super digging it. Yeah, I'm happy with it. Alright, let's take off our tape and see what we got for our finished piece. Na, na, na. There, I did damage this piece of paper a little bit on the edge there. Not quite sure how I managed that. But there we go. Ta-da! Oh yeah, I dig that. There is our finished piece. Let's zoom out and next to our reference photo. All the colors we used are right here. And yeah, that's our piece. What do you guys think? Kind of super digging it. Yeah. Alright, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!